We change bit by bit, day by day, habit by habit. We are continually undergoing micro evolution of the self. Each habit is like a suggestion. Hey, maybe this is who I am. If you finish a book, then perhaps you're the type of person who likes reading. If you go to the gym, then perhaps you're the type of person who likes exercise. If you practice playing the guitar, perhaps you are the type of person who likes music. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. This is one reason why meaningful change does not require radical change. Small habits can make a meaningful difference by providing evidence of a new identity. And if a change is meaningful, it it actually is big. That's the paradox of making small improvements. Putting this all together, you can see that the habits are the path to changing your identity. The most practical way to change who you are is to change what you do. Each time you write a page, you are a writer. Each time you practice a violin, you are a musician. Each time you start a workout, you are an athlete. Each time you encourage your employees, you are a leader. Every habit not only gets results, but also teaches you something else far more important: to trust yourself. You start to believe that you can actually accomplish these things. When the votes mount up and the evidence begins to change, the story you tell yourselves begins to change as well. Of course, it works the opposite way too. Every time you choose to perform a bad habit, it's a vote for that identity. The good news is that you don't need to be perfect. In any selection, there are going to be votes for both sides. You don't need a unanimous vote to win an election. You just need a majority. It doesn't matter if you cast a few votes for bad behavior or an unproductive habit. Your goal is to win the majority of the time. New identities require new evidence. If you keep casting the same vote you've always cast, you're going to get the same results you've always had. If nothing changes, nothing is going to change. It is a simple two-step process. Decide the type of person you want to be. That's number one. And number two is prove it to yourself with small wins. First, decide who you want to be. This holds at any level: as an individual, as a team, as a community, as a nation. What do you want to stand for? What are your principles and values? Who do you wish to become? These are big questions, and many people aren't sure where to begin, but they do know what kind of results they want. To get six pack abs, or to feel less anxious, or to double their salary, that's fine. Start there and work backward from the result you want to the type of person who could get those results. Ask yourself, who is the type of person that could get the outcome I want? Who is the type of person that could lose 40 pounds? Who is the type of person that could learn a new language? Who is the type of person that could run a successful startup? For example, who is the type of person who could write a book? It's probably someone who is consistent and reliable. Now your focus shifts from writing a book, outcome based, to being the type of person who is consistent and reliable, identity based. This process can lead to beliefs like, I'm the kind of teacher who stands up for her students. I'm the kind of doctor who gives each patient the time and empathy they need. I'm the kind teacher who advocates of I mean, I'm the kind of manager who advocates for her employees. Once you have a handle on the type of person you want to be, You can begin taking small steps to reinforce your desired identity. I have a friend who lost over 100 pounds by asking herself, what would a healthy person do? All day long, she would use this question as a guide. Would a healthy person walk or take a cab? Would a healthy person order a burrito or a salad? She figured out if she acted like a healthy person long enough, eventually she'll become that person. She was right. The concept of identity based habits is our first introduction to another key theme in this book: feedback loops. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. It's a two-way street. The formation of all habits is a feedback loop, a concept we will explore in depth in the next chapter. But it's important to let your values, principles, and identity drive the loop rather than your results. The focus should always be on becoming that type of person, not getting a particular outcome. The real reason habits matter. Identify change is Identity change is the north star of habit change. The remainder of this book will provide you with step by step instructions on how to build better habits in yourself, your family, your team, your company, and anywhere else you wish. But the true question is, are you becoming the type of person who you want to become? The first step is not what or how, but who. You need to know who you want to be. Otherwise, your quest for change is like a boat without a rudder. And that's why we are starting here. You have the power to change your beliefs about yourself. Your identity is not set in stone. You have a choice in every moment. You can choose the identity you want to reinforce today with the habits you choose today. And this brings us to the deeper purpose of this book and the real reason habits matter. Building better habits isn't about littering your day with life hacks. It's not about flossing one tooth each night or taking a cold shower each morning or wear the same outfit each day. It's not about achieving external measures of success like earning more money, losing weight, or reducing stress. Habits can help you achieve all of these things, but fundamentally, they are not about having something. They are about becoming someone. Wow. Ultimately, your habits matter because they help you become the type of person you wish to be. They are the channel through which you develop your deepest beliefs about yourself. Quite literally, you become your habits. Chapter summary right here. There are three levels of change: outcome change, process change, and identity change. The most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. Your identity emerges out of your habits. Every action is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs and to upgrade and expand your identity. The real reason habits matter is not because they can get you better results, although they can do that, but because they can change your beliefs about yourself. Okay. Chapter 3: How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps. In 18 in 1898, a psychologist named Edward Thorndike conducted an experiment that would lay the foundation for our understanding of how habits form and the rules that guide our behavior. Thorndike was interested in studying the behavior of animals, and he started by working with cats. He would place each cat inside a device known as a puzzle box. The box was designed so that the cat could escape through a door by some simple act, such as pulling a loop of a cord, pressing a lever, or stepping on a platform. For example, one box contained a lever that, when pressed, would open a door on this side of the box. Once the door had been opened, the cat could dart out and run over to a bowl of food. Most cats wanted to escape as soon as they were placed inside the box. What could poke their nose in? They could poke their nose into the corners, stick their paws through openings, and at loose objects. After a few minutes of exploration, the cats would happen to press the magical lever, the door would open, and they would escape. Thorndike tracked the behavior of each cat across many trials. In the beginning, the animals moved around the box at random. But as soon as the lever had been pressed and the door opened, the process of learning began. Gradually, each cat learned to associate the action of pressing the lever with the reward of escaping the box and getting to the food. After 20 to 30 trials, this behavior became so automatic and habitual that the cat could escape within a few seconds. For example, Thorndike noted, Cat 12 took the following times to perform the act: 160 seconds, 30 seconds, 90 seconds, 60 seconds, 15, 28, 20, 30, 22, 11, 15, 20, 12, 10, 14, 10, 8, 8, 5, 10, 8, 6, 6, 7. During the first 3 trials, the cat escaped in an average of 1.5 minutes. During the last 3 trials, it escaped in an average of 6.3 seconds. With practice, each cat made fewer errors and their actions became quicker and more automatic. Rather than repeat the same mistakes, the cat began to cut straight to the solution. From his studies, Thorndike described the learning process by stating, behaviors followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated, and those that produce unpleasant consequences are less likely to be repeated. His work provides the perfect starting point for discussing how habits form in our own lives. It also provides answers to some fundamental questions like what are habits and why does the brain bother building them all? Why your brain builds habits. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. The process of habit formation begins with trial and error. Whenever you encounter a new situation in life, your brain has to make a decision. How do I respond to this? The first time you come across a problem, you're not sure how to solve it. Like Thorndike's cat, you're just trying things out to see what works. Neurologically, activity in the brain is high during this period. You are carefully analyzing the situation and making conscious decisions about how to act. You're taking in tons of new information and trying to make sense of it all. The brain is busy learning the most effective course of action. Occasionally, like a cat pressing on a lever, you stumble across a solution. You're feeling anxious, and you discover that going for a run calms you down. You're mentally exhausted from a long day of work, and you learn that playing video games relaxes you. You're exploring, and then bam, a reward. After you stumble upon an unexpected reward, you alter your strategy for next time. Your brain immediately begins to catalog the events that preceded the reward. Wait a minute, that felt good. What did I do right before that? This is the feedback loop behind all human behavior. Try, fail, learn, Try differently. With practice, the useless movements fade away and the useful actions are reinforced. That's a habit forming. Whenever you face a problem repeatedly, hold on. Whenever you face a problem repeatedly, your brain begins to automate the process of solving it. Your habits are just a series of automatic solutions that solve the problems and stresses you face regularly. As behavioral scientist Jason Reha writes, habits are simply reliable solutions to recurring problems in our environment. As habits are created, the level of activity in the brain decreases. You learn to lock in on the cues that predict success and tune out everything else. When a similar situation arises in the future, you know exactly what to look for. There is no longer a need to analyze every angle of a situation. Your brain skips the process of trial and error and creates a mental rule. If this, then that. These cognitive scripts can be followed automatically whenever the situation is appropriate. Now, whenever you feel stressed, you get the itch to run. As soon as you walk in the door from work, you grab the video game controller. A choice that once required effort is now automatic. A habit has been created. Habits are mental shortcuts learned from experience. In a sense, a habit is just a memory of the steps you previously followed to solve a problem in the past. Whenever the conditions are right, you can draw on this memory and automatically apply the same solution. The primary reason the brain remembers the past is to better predict what will work in the future. Habit formation is incredibly useful because the conscious mind is the bottleneck of the brain. It can only pay attention to one problem at a time. As a result, your brain is always working to preserve your conscious attention for whatever task is most essential. Whenever possible, the conscious mind likes to pawn off tasks to the non-conscious mind to do automatically. This is precisely what happens when a habit is formed. Habits reduce cognitive load and free up mental capacity so you can allocate your attention to other tasks. Despite their efficiency, some people still wonder about the benefits of habits. And the argument goes like this: will habits make my life dull? I don't want a pigeonhole myself into a lifestyle I don't enjoy. Does doesn't doesn't so much routine take away the vibrancy and spontaneity of life? Hardly. Such questions set up a false dich- dichotomy. I don't know what that means, no cap. Let's go ahead and look it up. Dichotomy. Dictionary.com. Dichotomy. How do you say that?
Dichotomy.
Oh, dichotomy. It means division into two parts, kinds, subdivision into two halves or pairs. Okay, so such questions set up a false dichotomy, which is a false like division. Or hold on, let me see. A dichotomy between thought and action, opposed or contradictory groups. So it sets up a false contradiction, I guess. All right, that's pretty cool. All right, bet. Let's go. Um, they make you think that you have to choose between building habits and attaining freedom. In reality, the two complement each other. Habits do not constrict freedom, they create it. In fact, the people who don't have their habits handled are often the ones with the least amount of freedom. Without good financial habits, you will always be struggling for the next dollar. Without good health habits, you will always seem to be short on energy. Without good learning habits, you will always feel like you're behind the curve. If you're always being forced to make decisions about simple tasks, when should I work out? Where do I go to write? When do I pay the bills? Then you have less time for freedom. It's only by taking the fundamentals of life easy by making the fundamentals of life easier that you can create a mental space needed for free thinking and creativity. Conversely, when you have your habits dialed in and the basis of life are handled and done, your mind is free to focus on new challenges and master the next set of problems. Building habits in the present allows you to do more than what you want in the future. The science of how habits work. The process of building a habit can be divided into four simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. Breaking it down into these fundamental parts can help us understand what a habit is, how it works, and how to improve it. What about how to get rid of it, honestly? Um, cue, craving, response, reward. Time over time, Figure 4. All habits proceed through four stages in the same order: cue, craving, response, reward. This four-step pattern is the backbone of every habit, and your brain runs through these steps in the same order each time. First, there is the cue. The cue triggers your brain to initiate a, a behavior. It is a bit of information that predicts a reward. Our prehistoric ancestors were paying attention to cues that signaled the location of primary rewards like food, water, and sex. Today, we spend most of our time learning cues that predict secondary rewards like money, fame, power, and status, praise and approval, love and friendship, or the sense of personal satisfaction. Of course, these pursuits also indirectly improve our odds of survival and reproduction, which is the deeper motive behind everything we do. Your mind is continuously analyzing your internal and external environments for hints of where rewards are located. Because the cue is the first indication that we're close to a reward, it naturally leads to a craving. Cravings are the second step, and they are the motivational force behind every habit. Without some level of motivation or desire, without craving a change, we have no reason to act. What you crave is not the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers. You do not crave smoking a cigarette, you crave the feeling of relief it provides. You are not motivated by brushing your teeth, but rather by the feeling of a clean mouth. You do not want to turn on the television, you want to be entertained. Every craving is linked to a desire to change your internal state. This is as important This is an important point that we will discuss in detail later. Cravings differ from person to person. In theory, any piece of information could trigger a craving, but in practice, people are motivated by the same cues. For a gambler, the sound of slot machines can be a potential trigger that sparks an intense wave of desire. For someone who rarely gambles, the jingles and chimes of the casino are just background noise. Background noise. Cues are meaningless until they are interpreted. The thoughts, feelings, and emotions of the observer are what transforms a cue into a craving. The third step is the response. The response is the actual habit you perform, which can take the form of a thought or an action. The response is the actual habit you perform. Whether a response occurs depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. If a particular action requires more physical or mental efforts than you're willing to expend, then you won't do it. Your response also depends on your ability. It sounds simple, but a habit can occur only if you are capable of doing it. It sounds wait, what the hell? If you want to if you want to dunk a basketball but can't jump high enough to reach the hoop, well, you're out of luck. Finally, the response delivers a reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The response is about obtaining the reward. We chase rewards because they serve two purposes. One, they satisfy us, and two, they teach us. The first purpose of rewards is to satisfy your craving. Yes, rewards provide benefits of their own. Food and water delivers the energy you need to survive. Getting a promotion brings more money and respect. Getting in shape improves your health and your dating prospects, but the more immediate benefit is that the rewards satisfy your cravings to eat or to gain status or to win approval. At least for a moment, rewards deliver contentment and relief from craving. Second, rewards teach us which actions are worth remembering in the future. Your brain is a reward detector. As you go about your life, your sensory nervous system is continuously monitoring which actions satisfy your desires and deliver pleasure. Feelings of pleasure and disappointment are part of the feedback mechanism that helps your brain distinguish useful actions from useless ones. Re- Rewards close the feedback loop and complete the habit cycle. If a behavior is insufficient in any of the four stages, it will not become a habit. Eliminate the cue and your habit will never start. Reduce the craving and you won't experience enough motivation to act. Make the behavior difficult and you won't be able to do it. Uh-huh. And if the reward fails to satisfy your desire, then you have no reason to do it again in the future. Without the first three steps, a behavior will not occur. Without all four, a behavior will not be repeated. The habit loop. Cue, craving, reward, response. Figure 4. Figure 6. The four stages of habit are best described as a feedback loop. They form an endless cycle that is running every moment you are alive. This habit loop is continually scanning the environment, predicting what will happen next, trying out different responses, and learning from the results. In summary, the cue triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which provides a reward, which satisfies a craving, and ultimately becomes associated with the cue. Together, these four steps form a neurological feedback loop: cue, craving, response, reward. Cue, craving, response, reward. That ultimately allows you to create automatic habits. This cycle is known as the habit loop. This four-step process is not something that happens occasionally, but rather it is an endless feedback loop that is running and active during every moment you are alive. Even now, the brain is continually scanning the environment, predicting what will happen next, trying out different responses, and learning from the results. The entire process is completed in a split second, and we use it again and again without realizing everything that has been packed into the previous moment. We can split these four steps into two phases: the problem phase and the solution phase. The problem phase includes the cue and the craving, and it is where you realize that something needs to change. The solution phase includes the response and the reward. It is when you take action and achieve the action and achieve the change you desire. All behavior is driven by the desire to solve a problem. Sometimes the problem is that you notice something good and you want to obtain it. Sometimes the problem is that you are experiencing pain and you want to relieve it. Either way, the purpose of every habit is to solve problems you face. In the table on the following page, you can see a few examples of what this looks like in real life. Imagine walking into a dark room and flipping on the light switch. You have performed this simple habit so many times that it occurs without thinking. You proceed through all four stages in the fraction of a second. The urge to act strikes you without thinking. By the time we become adults, we rarely notice the habits that are running our lives. Most of us never give a second thought to the fact that we tie the same shoe first each morning, or unplug the toaster after each use, or always change into comfortable clothes after getting home from work. After decades of mental programming, we automatically slip into these patterns of thinking and acting. Damn, that's crazy. Here's a problem phase. Cute, your phone buzzes with a new text. Craving, you want to learn the content of the messages. Solution phase, this is crazy, bro. You grab your phone and read the text. Reward, you satisfy your craving to read the message. Grabbing your phone becomes associated with your phone. Way. No way. Problem phase, you wake up. You want to feel alert. Solution phase 3 response, you drink a cup of coffee. Reward, you satisfy your craving to feel alert. Drinking coffee becomes associated with waking up. Wow. Problem phase Q, which is what triggers it. You smell a donut shop as you walk down the street near your office. Craving, you begin to crave a donut. So what's your solution? The solution phase, what's your response? You buy a donut and eat it. And what's the reward? You satisfy your craving to eat a donut. Buying a donut becomes associated with walking down the street near your office. Wow. Wow. Problem phase, you walk into a dark room. Craving, you want to be able to see. Solution phase, you flip the light switch. Reward, you satisfy your craving to see. Turning on the light switch becomes associated with being in a dark room. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. At Okay, I read that. The four laws of behavior change. In the following chapters, we will see time and time again how the four stages. I'm actually gonna bookmark this page right here too, 'cause this page right here is crazy. No cap. page is insane. Go to bookmark this right here. All right. In the following chapters, we will see time and time again how the four stages of cue, craving, response, and reward influence nearly everything we do each day. But before we do that, we need to transform these four steps into a practical framework that we can use to design good habits and eliminate bad ones. I refer to this framework as the four laws of behavior change, and it provides a simple set of rules for creating good habits and breaking bad ones. You can think of each law as a lever that influences human behavior. When the levers are in the right positions, creating a good habit is effortless. When they are in the wrong position, it is nearly impossible. The first law, cue. How to create a good habit. Make it obvious. Craving. Make it attractive. Third law, response. Make it easy. The fourth law, reward. Make it satisfying. Okay, so I have to make it satisfying. So I have to say, that felt good to take a cold shower, or that felt good to work out, or that felt good to, do what I have to do. Wow, wow, wow. Crazy. We can invert these laws to learn how to break a bad habit. So literally everything but the opposite. Inversion of the law, first law, Q. How to break a bad habit. Make it invisible. Craving, make it unattractive. So if you crave the habit, you have to make that habit unattractive. Response, make it difficult. Inversion of the fourth law, reward, make it unsatisfying. And this is how to break a bad habit. Wow. It would be irresponsible for me to claim that these four laws are an exhaustive framework from changing any human behavior. But I think they're close. As you will soon see, the four laws of behavior change apply to nearly every field, from sports to politics, art to medicine, comedy to management. These laws can be used no matter what challenge you are facing. There is no need for completely different strategies for each habit. Whether you want to change your behavior, Whenever you want to change your behavior, you can simply ask yourself, how can I make it obvious? How can I make it attractive? How can I make it easy? How can I make it satisfying? If you ever wondered, why don't I do what I say I'm gonna do? Why don't I lose weight or stop smoking or save for retirement or start that side business? Why do I say something is important but never seem to make time for it? Wow, the answers to those questions can be found somewhere in these four laws. The key to creating good habits and breaking bad ones is to understand these fundamental laws and how to alter them for your specifications. Each goal is doomed to fail if it goes against your grain of human nature. Your habits are shaped by the systems in your life. In the chapters that follow, we will discuss these laws one by one and show how you can use them to create a system in which habits emerge naturally and bad habits wither away. Yes, please, please, yes. Oh my god, this book. The first law, make it obvious. I'll put this right here now. Make it obvious. Okay. 4. The man who didn't look right. The psychologist Gary Klein once told me a story about a woman who attended a family gathering. She had spent years working as a paramedic and, upon arriving at the event, took one look at her father in law and got very concerned. "I don't like the way you look," she said. Her father in law, who was feeling perfectly fine, jokingly replied, "Well, I don't like your looks either." "No," she insisted. "You need to go to the hospital now." A few hours later, the man was undergoing life saving surgery after an examination had revealed that he had a blockage of a major artery and was at an immediate risk of a heart attack. Without his daughter in law's intuition, he could have died. What did the paramedic see? How can she predict his impending heart attack? When major arteries are obstructed, the body focuses on sending blood to critical organs and away from peripheral locations near the surface of the skin. The result is a change in the pattern of distribution of blood in the face. After many years of working with people with heart failure, the woman had unknowingly developed the ability to recognize this pattern on sight. She couldn't explain what it was that she noticed in her father in law's face, but she knew something was wrong. Similar stories exist in other fields. For example, military analysts can identify which blip on the radar screen is an enemy missile and which one is a plane from their own fleet, even though they are traveling at the same speed, flying at the same altitude, and look identical on the radar in nearly every respect. During the during the Gulf War, Lieutenant Commander Michael Ray saved an entire battleship when he ordered a missile shot down. Despite the fact that it looked exactly like the battleship's own planes on radar, he made the right call. But even his superior officers couldn't explain how he did it. Museum curators have been known to discern the differences between an authentic piece of art and an expertly produced counterfeit. Even though they can't tell you precisely which details tip them off, experienced radiologists can look at a brain scan and predict the area where a stroke will develop before any obvious signs are visible to the untrained eye. I have heard of hairdressers noticing whether a client is pregnant based only on the feel of her hair. The human brain is a prediction machine. It is continuously taking in your surroundings and analyzing the information, and it comes across. Whenever you experience something repeatedly, like a paramedic seeing the face of a heart attack patient or a military analyst seeing the missile on a radar screen, your brain begins noticing what is important, sorting through the details of highlighting the relevant cues and cataloging the information for future use. With enough practice, you can pick up on the cues and predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Automatically, your brain encodes the lessons learned through experience. We can't always explain what it is we are learning, but learning is happening all along the way, and your ability to notice the relevant cues in a given situation is the foundation of every habit you have. We underestimate how much our brains and bodies can do without thinking. You do not tell your hair to grow, your heart to pump, your lungs to breathe, or your stomach to digest, and yet your body handles all this and more on autopilot. You are more than your own conscious self. Consider hunger. How do you know when you're hungry? You don't necessarily have to see a cookie on the counter to realize that it is time to eat. Appetite and hunger are governed non consciously. Your body has a variety of feedback loops that gradually alert you when it's time to eat again and that track what is going on around you and within you. Cravings can arise thanks to hormones and chemicals circulating through your body. Suddenly, you're hungry even though you're not quite sure what tipped you off. This is one of the most surprising insights about our habits. You don't need to be aware of the cue for the habit to begin. You can notice an opportunity to and take action without dedicating conscious attention to it. This is what makes habits useful. It's also what makes them dangerous. Uh-huh. As habits form, your actions come under the direction of your automatic and non-conscious mind. You fall into old patterns before you realize what's happening, unless someone points it out. You may not notice that you cover your mouth with your hand whenever you laugh, that you apologize before asking a question, or that you have a habit of finishing other people's sentences. And the more you repeat these patterns, the less likely you become to question what you're doing and why you're doing it. I once heard of a retail clerk who was instructed to cut up empty gift cards after consumers had used up the balance on the card. One day, the clerk cashed out a few customers in a row who purchased with gift cards. When the next person walked up, the clerk swiped the customer's actual credit card, picked up the scissors, and then cut it in half, entirely on autopilot, before looking up at the stunned customer and realizing what had just happened. Another woman I came across in my research was a former preschool teacher who had switched from a corporate job. Even though she was now working with adults, her old habits would kick in and she kept asking coworkers if they had washed their hands after going to the bathroom. I also found the story of a man who spent years working as a lifeguard and would occasionally yell, "Walk," whenever he saw a child running. Over time, the cues that spark our habits become so common that they are essentially invisible. The treats on the kitchen counter, the remote control next to the couch, the phone in our pockets, our responses to these cues are so deeply encoded that it may feel like the urge to act comes from nowhere. For this reason, we must begin the process of behavior change with awareness. Before we can effectively build new habits, we need to get a handle on our current ones. This can be this can be more challenging than it sounds because once a habit is firmly rooted in your life, it is mostly non-conscious and automatic. If a habit remains mindless, you can't expect to improve it. As the psychologist Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, until you, yeah, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The habits scoreboard. The Japanese railway system is regarded as one of the best in the world. If you ever find yourself riding a train in Tokyo, you'll notice that the conductors have a peculiar habit. As each operator runs the train, they proceed through a ritual of pointing at different objects and calling out commands. When the train approaches a signal, the operator will point to it and say, "Signal is green." As the train pulls into and out of each station, the operator will point to the speedometer and call out the exact speed. When it's time to leave, the operator will point out at the timetable and state the time. Out on the platform, other employees are performing similar actions. Before each train departs, staff members will point along the edge of the platform and declare, "All clear." Every detail is identified, pointed out, and named aloud. This process is called pointing and calling. It's a safety system designed to reduce mistakes. It seems silly, but it works incredibly well. Pointing and calling reduces errors by up to 85% and cuts accidents by 30%. The MTA subway system in New York City adopted a modified version that is point only, and within 2 years of implementation, incidents of incorrectly berthed subways fell 57%. Pointing and calling is so effective because it raises the level of awareness from a non conscious habit to a more conscious level, because the train operators must use their eyes, hands, and and ears. Mouths and ears. They are more likely to notice problems before something goes wrong. I understand. My wife does something similar. Whenever we're preparing to walk out the door for a trip, she verbally calls out the most essential items in her packing list. I've got my keys, I've got my wallet, I've got my glasses, I've got my husband. The more the more automatic a behavior becomes, the less likely we are to consciously think about it. And when we've done something 1,000 times before, we begin to overlook things. We assume that the next time will just be like the last. We're so used to doing what we've always done that we don't stop to question whether the right thing to do at all. Many of our failures in performance are largely attributable to a lack of self awareness. One of our greatest challenges in changing habits is maintaining awareness of what we are actually doing. This helps explain why the consequences of bad habits can sneak up on us. We need a point and call system for our personal lives. That's the origin of the habits scorecard, which is a simple exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior. To create your own, make a list of your daily habits. Here's an example of where your list might start. Wake up, turn off alarm, check my phone, go to the bathroom, weigh myself, take a shower, brush my teeth, floss my teeth, put on deodorant, hang up towel to dry, get dressed up, make a cup of tea, and so on. Once you have a full list, look at each behavior and ask yourself, is this a good habit, bad habit, or a neutral habit? If it's a good habit, write a plus next to it. If it's a bad habit, write minus. If it's a neutral habit, write equals. For example, the list above might look like this: wake up equals, turn off alarm equals, check my phone minus, or I could say negative, go to the bathroom equal, weigh myself positive, take a shower positive, brush my teeth positive, floss my teeth positive, put on deodorant positive, hang up towels to dry equal, get dressed equals, make a cup of tea positive. The marks you give to a particular habit will depend on your situation and your goals. For someone who's trying to lose weight, eating a bagel with peanut butter every morning might be a bad habit. For someone who is trying to bulk up and add muscle, the same behavior might be a good habit. It all depends on what you're working toward. Scoring your habits can be a bit more complex for another reason as well. The labels good habit and bad habit are slightly inaccurate. There are no good habits or bad habits. There are only effective habits. That is, effective at solving problems. All habits serve you in some way, even the bad ones, which is why you repeat them. For this exercise, categorize your habits by how they will benefit you in the long run. Generally speaking, good habits will have a net positive outcome. Bad habits have a net negative outcomes. Smoking a cigarette may reduce stress right now, but that's how it's serving you, but it's not a healthy long-term behavior. If you're still having trouble determining how to rate a particular habit, here's a question I like to use. Does this behavior help me become the type of person I wish to be? Does this habit cast a vote for or against my desired identity? Habits can that reinforce your desired identity are usually good habits. Habits that conflict with your desired identity are usually bad. Interesting. As you create your habits scoreboard, there's no need to change anything at first. The goal is to simply notice what is actually going on. Observe your thoughts and action without judgment or internal criticism. Don't blame yourself for your faults. Don't praise yourself for your successes. If you eat a chocolate bar every morning, acknowledge it, almost as if you're watching someone else. Oh, how interesting that they would do such a thing. If you binge eat, simply notice that you are eating more calories than you should. If you waste time online, notice that you are spending your life in a way that you do not want to. Yes. The first step to changing bad habits is to be on the lookout for them. If you feel like you need extra help, then you could try pointing and calling in your own life. Say out loud the action that you are thinking of taking and what the outcome will be. If you want to cut back on your junk food habits, but notice yourself grabbing another cookie, say out loud, I'm about to eat this cookie, but I don't need it. Eating it will cause me to gain weight and hurt my health. Hearing your bad habits spoken out loud makes the consequences seem more real. It adds weight to the action rather than letting yourself mindlessly slip into an old routine. This approach is useful even when you're simply trying to remember a task on your to-do list. Just saying out loud, tomorrow I need to get to the post office after lunch, increases the odds that you actually do it. Do it. You're getting yourself to acknowledge the need for action. And that can make all the difference. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. Strategies like pointing and calling and the habit scoreboard are focused on getting you to recognize your habits and acknowledge the cues that trigger them, which make them possible to respond in a way that benefits you. Chapter summary: with enough practice, your brain will pick up the cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Wow. I like that pointing and calling exercise. I like that a lot. I'm gonna use that. That's how I stop on what page again? 74. Okay. 5. The best way to start a new habit. In 2001, researchers of Great Britain began working on 248 with four, began working with 248 people to build better exercise habits over the course of 2 weeks. The subjects were divided into three groups. The first group was the control group. They were simply asked to track how often they exercised. The second group was the motivation group. They were asked they were asked not only to track their workouts but also read some material on the benefits of exercise. The researchers also explained to the group how exercise could reduce the risk of coronary heart disease and improve heart health. Finally, there was the third group. These subjects received the same presentation as the second group, which ensured that they had equal levels of motivation. However, they were also asked to formulate a plan for when and where they would exercise over the following week. Specifically, each member of the third group completed the following sentence: during the next week, I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on day, at time, and in place. In the first and second groups, 35 to 38% of people exercised at least once per week. Interestingly, the motivational presentation given by the second group seem to have no meaningful impact on behavior. But 91% of the third group exercise at least once per week, more than double the normal rate. The sentence they filled out is what researchers refer to as an implementation intention, which is a plan you make beforehand about when and where to act. That is how you intend to implement a particular habit. The cues that can trigger a habit come in a wide range of forms. The feel of your phone buzzing in your pocket, the smell of chocolate chip cookies, the sound of ambulance sirens, but the two most common cues are time and location. Implementation intentions leverage both of these cues. Broadly speaking, the format for creating an implementation intention is when situation X arises, I will perform response Y. Hundreds of studies have shown that implementation intentions are effective for sticking to our goals, whether it's writing down the exact time and date of when you will get a flu shot or recording the time of your colonoscopy appointment. They increase the odds that people will stick with habits like recycling, studying, going to sleep early, and stopping smoking. Researchers have even found that voter turnout increases when people are forced to create implementation intentions by answering questions like, what route are you taking to the police station? At what time are you planning to go? What bus will get you there? Other successful government programs have prompted citizens to make a clear plan to send taxes in on time or provided directions on when and where to pay late traffic bills. The punchline is clear. People who make a specific plan for when and where they will perform a new habit are more likely to follow through. Too many people try to change their habits without the basic details figured out. We tell ourselves, I'm going to eat healthier or I'm going to write more, but we never say when and where these habits are going to happen. We live it up to chance and hope that we will just remember to do it or feel motivated at the right time. An implementation intention sweeps away foggy notions like I want to work out more, or I want to be more productive, or I should vote, and transforms them into a concrete plan of action. Many people think that they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. It is not always obvious when and where to take action. Some people spend their entire lives waiting for the time to be right to make an improvement. Once an implementation intention has been set, you don't have to wait for intention to strike. Do I write a chapter today or not? Do I meditate this morning or at lunch? When the moment of action occurs, there is no need to make a decision. Simply follow your predetermined plan. The simple way to apply this strategy to your habits is to fill out this sentence: I will behavior at time in location. Meditation: I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. I will study Spanish for 20 minutes at 6 p.m. in my bedroom. Exercise: I will exercise for 1 hour at 5 p.m. in my local gym. Marriage: I will make my partner a cup of tea at 8 a.m. in the kitchen. If you aren't sure when to start your habits, try the first day of the week, month, or year. People are more likely to take action at those times because hope is usually higher. If we have hope, we have a reason to take action. A fresh start feels motivating. There is another benefit to implementation intentions. Being specific about what you want and how you will achieve it helps you say no to things that derail progress. Distractions distract your attention or pull you off course. We often say yes to little requests because we are not clear enough about what we need to be doing instead. When your dreams are vague, it's easy to rationalize little expectations all day and never get around to the specific things you need to do to succeed. Give your habits a time and space to live in the world. The goal is to make the time and location so obvious that with enough repetition, you get an urge to do the right thing at the right time, even if you can't say why. As the writer Jason Zweig noted, obviously you're never going to just work out without conscious thought. But like a dog salivating at a bell, maybe you start to get antsy around the time of day you normally work out. There are many ways to use implementation intentions in your life and work. My favorite approach is one I learned from Professor BJ Fogg. It is a strategy I refer to as habit stacking. Habit stacking, a simple plan to overhaul your habits. To French philosopher Denis Diderot, the French philosopher Denis Diderot lived nearly his entire life in poverty, but that all changed one day in 1765. Diderot's daughter was about to be married and he could not afford to pay for the wedding. Despite his lack of wealth, Diderot was well known for his role as a co-founder and writer of Encyclopédie, one of the most comprehensive encyclopedias of the time. When Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia, heard of Diderot's financial troubles, her heart went out to him. She was a book lover and greatly enjoyed his encyclopedia. She offered to buy Diderot's personal library for 1,000 euros, more than $150,000 today. Suddenly, Diderot had money to spare. With his new wealth, he not only paid for the wedding but also acquired a scarlet robe for himself. Diderot's scarlet robe was beautiful, so beautiful in fact that he immediately noticed how out of place it seemed when surrounded by his common possessions. He wrote that there was no more coordination, no more unity, no more beauty between his elegant robe and the rest of his stuff. Diderot soon felt the urge to upgrade his possessions. He replaced his rug with one from Damascus. He decorated his home with expensive sculptures. He brought a mirror to place above the mantel and a better kitchen table. He tossed aside his old straw chair for a leather one. Like falling dominoes, one purchase led to the next. Diderot's behavior is not uncommon. In fact, the tendency for one purchase to lead to another one has a name: the Diderot effect. The effect the Diderot effect states that obtaining new possessions often creates a spiral of consumption that leads to additional purchases. You can spot this pattern everywhere. You buy a dress and have to get new shoes and earrings to match. You buy a couch and suddenly question the layout of your entire living room. You buy a toy for your child and soon find yourself purchasing all the accessories that go with it. It's a chain reaction of purchases. Many human behaviors follow this cycle. You often decide what to do next based on what you've just finished doing. Going to the bathroom leads to washing and drying your hands, which reminds you that you need to put the dirty towels in the laundry. So you add laundry detergent to the shopping list and so on. No behavior happens in isolation. Each action becomes a cue that triggers the next behavior. Why is that important?